Chapter 2, The Girl Who Fell from a Rainbow. The next morning I was still at it. There's a Moon had become, and I still believe to this day, the best beat I had ever made. The feeling it gave me was indescribable, which made writing lyrics for it a little more difficult. The all-around feel was deeply mysterious, with beautiful female backing vocals accompanied by spacey synths and a hard-driving beat. For some reason, it was making me think of Puff the Magic Dragon, but a much more dark and adult version. It threw me back into a fantasy mindset I had had as a child, but it felt updated, revised, fresh, and futuristic. My new perspective and way of life now had a heartbeat outside of my own, and the music and the universe started developing a personal relationship. I would close my eyes and listen to the song on repeat, and it would bring me deeper and deeper into a world I had never before imagined, one that was far too vast and mysterious to put into words just yet. It was as though I was Alice and I had just tumbled down the hole, but I was not scared. I was in absolute heaven, a melancholy heaven, the bliss of loneliness. Then came 3 little knocks at my bedroom door. I knew by the 3rd knock who it was. Everyone's got a rhythm. "Hi, chicken," announced Sarah, cracking open the door just a bit and double-checking. "Can I come in?" "Baby, yeah, duh," I responded, slowly turning around in my chair to greet her. She stood in the doorway, soft ebony eyes and flawless skin to match. It was interesting. She hadn't rushed into my arms yet. There was hesitation in her every movement, but she didn't look upset. Not just yet. As mild-mannered as Sarah is on a daily basis, let me tell you, when the right words are spoken, her temper can go off like a Top Gun jet fighter, and she's got all the skills to control the thing once it does as well. I knew I was going to tell her I was officially off the wagon again, and I also knew I wasn't going to back down. I had made a decision, and she was either going to be with me or without me. As hard as it was, now was the time. But as per usual, the girl beat me to it. "Cy, I'm pregnant." "Serious?" Sarah's head hung low and her lips bunched up before she let it all out. "I checked like a bunch of times. I got a bunch of tests. And yeah, they all came up positive, which I don't understand because, I don't know when it happened. Maybe that one time? I don't know. I'm very stressed out right now and I don't know what to do." I immediately made a yuck face and suggested, with a snippy hand gesture, the inevitable future. This did not make her happy, and she finally ran into my arms, first slapping away my hands and covering my mouth to prevent me from saying anything else grotesque. "Cy, I need you to listen to me right now. This is very serious." I hesitated, trying to take it all in, but defaulted to seeking a quick solution. I understand it's emotional for you, but baby, it's really not that serious. We're not keeping it. We've talked about this, so yeah." She was not impressed. "It's not that simple, Cy. You don't know what it's like to be a girl." "I sure don't, but yeah, okay, I'll listen." Sarah broke into choppy sentences, more distressed than I had ever seen her. "So this is really a big deal for me. And I understand you don't get it, but I've been drinking pretty heavily and I just can't handle this right now." I tried my best to show some sympathy. "You can handle it. You'll be okay. Don't worry about the drinking. Maybe it will do the job." I smirked again. "Not funny," and she punched me for it. "I'll continue. This has brought up so many feelings in me. And I just don't know. I know we talked about this, but I didn't know what it would be like, and now I really don't know. Sarah, we're not having a baby, okay?" "Yeah, I know. Shut up. Okay." This back and forth went on for nearly an hour. I tried my best to be understanding and listen, but at the same time, Sarah was the type of drunk that I hated most. She demanded I'd be understanding and listen, and then continued to repeat the same open-ended questions over and over, saying things like, "I just don't know," and "it's brought up so many feelings," and again, "it's just a lot," followed. Then, of course, every once in a while with, "I wish you would be like this," or "I wish you would be like that." Sarah, I don't wish you were like anything. I accept you as you are, so you can keep on wishing, but I'm going to be me, and I think I'm pretty awesome. And I think you are too, but I think you're a little drunk, you pants. Oh, yeah? So nothing I want matters, right? I forgot. Oh, and you know what? I can tell you've been up all night. You're acting different, and I can tell. I've been writing music, Sarah. Some of the best music I've made in a while, actually. Yeah, that too. That's how I know you're doing meth or something again. Won't you just be honest with me? All I want is your honesty. Here she goes again, I thought. I do so much for you, Cy, and you won't even put in the little effort it takes. Sarah, you coming here in the middle of me working on, you know what? Okay, this. Sarah, yes, I did meth last night, and I'm going to do it again today, and maybe even the next day if I want to, and I don't think you understand a goddamn thing about me. So I do everything I can for you, and you come in here. Slam! She was out the door, and oh, how I was ever so relieved. Finally, I thought to myself, then thinking about the fact that she actually was pregnant. What the I thought to myself. This is terrible. What a terribly situation. I could only laugh. Life was literally hilarious. Of course now, of course this. Of course, a horse, of course. Back to music. Project Black Cars Remix. An old Gino Vanelli classic. Once again, 2 hours later, there it was, sick as like very sick, up there in my top 10, and I've made literally thousands, perhaps tens of thousands of beats. Yep, I'm tapped in, I thought. Tapped into that energy. And the text messages started rolling in. Bam, 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 bam. Nope, not going to do it. Oh, and hey, more messages. Bam, bam, bam. Erica's pissed about some other shit. Needs to have a serious talk. All right, there's my signal. Way ahead of you, ladies. Black outfit, backpacks, strapped up and stuffed with a few other clothes, a couple of lights of Erica's that were pretty cool, some deodorant, $3 and change, laptop. I'd already made the decision. It was time to leave. Now and for good. Where to? Zero clue. For a moment, I felt like I was running away from home, like I did back in Germany, chuckling to myself how I had returned just hours later because it was too cold and the dark Bavarian mountain scared me. Not anymore. No, this time I was not coming back. I was taking my life by the horns and kicking it into gear. Bottle of wine down the hatch. Mind in the moment and on fire, with calm blue flames burning my trail to the pedestrian bridge. Gorgeous, state-of-the-art, lit up and highlighting the city. The architecture and I bonded, and I sat down for my last smoke and looked out on my city. It was much larger than it normally appeared to be, I believe, looking at it from these new eyes, less in flat square miles and more as a three-dimensional sphere of activity, personality, possibility, and ancient knowledge at its roots. It was a lush and thriving midnight metropolis, and I was its new alpha predator. Cypress! I heard something small and cute shriek behind me. I leaned back and arched my neck to see the ecstatic figure of none other than Maddie, my tattoo artist from the acclaimed Murder, Inc. She collapsed into me like a 69 and force-hugged me the rest of the way down to the ground before rolling off me and laying next to me, lost in the sky but deep in my presence. She began to giggle, and so did I. Never had I met someone so accustomed to the coincidental energy that had brought us back together once again. We had both begun mastering our own universes, and them colliding like this once again was nothing but evidence to us both that we were indeed doing so, and better than ever. How I wanted to celebrate, but there was no time. After a quick stargazing session and excited silence, we both popped up and began the impending next adventure. But what would it be? Where would it go? Deeper into downtown, it seemed. What are you going? What are you doing? She asked, and continued, I'm going to Murder, Inc. I live in that little small closet now. You want a tattoo? Yeah, sure. Whatever works. I'm a free bird now, officially. I got kicked out. Well, I kicked myself out of my place. I got no time for their Yeah, dude, people suck, she said promptly, with no intention of questioning me further. You want to live with me in the closet at Murder, Inc.? Yeah, I'm sure Mark would have no problem with it. He loves you, dude, at least for a little bit till you get your sheet together, or you can just stay there forever. She burst into a fit of laughter, not because she was joking, but because, as we both knew all too well, nothing lasts forever. I'm down like a clown. Okay, wait, I got to pee, she said, rushing over to the entrance of an apartment building, pulling down her pants and peeing all over the door. Maddie, I love you, I said with a sigh, crossing my arms and watching her pee trickle along the sidewalk. You stand there and you watch, she said violently. I don't know why, but I'm cool with that. Maddie in her natural habitat. How does it feel? How does what feel, she asked. Being a gangster. It feels terrible. Life is terrible. You know, Maddie, that's how I've been feeling, but you know what? With people like you around, maybe it could not be so terrible. No, it's still terrible, she quickly responded, putting a hard stop to any more sweet talk. But we can always All right, let's up. Way ahead of you, she said, pulling up her pants and skipping further down the street ahead of me, yelling back, I need my skateboard. I need to go do gangster shit. All right, hold up, I'm coming, I said, overjoyed with her pace and sense of aimless direction. She had been here, wherever here was, much longer than I had, and I definitely had much to learn. The White Rabbit continued further down the hole, and I, comfortable being Alice for now, followed her. This was no fairy tale, but nonetheless Maddie had swept me off my feet. When we arrived at Murder, Inc., Maddie burst through the door, hopped down the stairs, and entered her little Harry Potter room underneath them. Hard metal filled the air, accompanied by demonic screams that complemented the shop's overall vibe. There were skulls of various sizes on all the shelves, skeletons and animal hides hanging from dark red walls, and at the front desk a full suit of authentic medieval armor, complete with a broadsword. This hell-themed museum of a tattoo shop was a spectacle indeed. A slight readjustment of body and spirit was needed every time I entered this place, so I took a moment to take in all the new showcasings before yelling for Mark in the distant back room. There was no answer. Maddie soon emerged from under the stairs, holding a skateboard. I'll be back, dude, she said, running up the stairs just as fast as she had come down them. Where are you going? I hollered after her. I told you I'm going to go do some gangster shit. All right, have fun, I replied. I took off my backpack and set it down on a black leather couch near where my money had been stolen a few months earlier. Then I remembered my laptop was in there, reconsidered, and put my backpack back on. Fuck you, you motherfucker, came a girl's voice from the back room. Fuck me? What the fuck? Where did that come from? Mark and his girlfriend Alicia were back at it, always at each other's throats. Alicia's tone had become more vicious than I remembered, far too haggard and raspy for such a skinny, young blonde girl. White trash vibes were everywhere in that place, vibes that Mark himself, if not sleeping in the back room or actively tattooing, was always trying to escape. The real beast at the heart of this lair was Alicia, drugged up and hungry for Mark's soul. Mark came out with a strong stride, although his head was still getting in the game, rolling back and forth from shoulder to shoulder. He had surely been abruptly woken up from a nap. Oh, hey, Cypress, he said, quite surprised and almost relieved to see me. Let's get the fuck out of here. I need a cigarette. I got you, I said, pulling out one of the last cigarettes from my pack and sliding it to him as he continued past me up the stairs and out into some fresh air. The screaming continued until the door was shut and Mark and I relaxed into each other's company. It felt as though we were old brothers in arms who just didn't care to fight anymore. Shaking himself back to life, Mark lit up a cigarette and turned his attention to me. Where you been, man? I haven't seen you around. I've been in jail, dude. Been in treatment for the last 6 months. What? Mark said. What the happened? I'll tell you later, bro, I responded, shaking my head, uninterested in telling the story for the 100th time. Now was the time to focus on the future, and seeing Mark the way he was, I eventually suggested that perhaps we were both in the same position and should team up on something exciting and new. You know, I love that girl, but she's crazy, I laughed. You're preaching to the choir, dude. Everyone's crazy. You know what I thought would always be cool to do? Like a documentary on the shop, all the crazy that goes on here. You wouldn't believe. Oh, no, bro, I believe. You don't remember. I've been a part of a good deal of it. Nah, you ain't even scratched the surface, he interrupted. This place is an absolute show. People need to see this. Well, if you remember, I'm a filmmaker. Well, that's what I'm saying, dude. What if, we teamed up and did something like a documentary, pitch a show to Netflix or something? You got the connections, right? I used to, I responded. But you know what? If we got something good enough, I'm sure I could reach out to some people I used to know. Hollywood loves drama, and this place is definitely drama. Yeah, but there's something there, said Mark. I can't figure it out, but there's just something. I've had that feeling too, I said. That's why I'm here. And, Maddie actually mentioned, because I just left the place I was staying, that maybe as I transition, I could help you out a little around the shop and crash here on occasion. Is that something you would ever consider? Let me think about it. I'll get back to you, said Mark in conclusion, flicking his cigarette to the ground and stomping it out. You're welcome to hang out, though, while I deal with this. Yeah, can I? Mark had no time to answer repetitive questions and headed back in. I followed him and thought this was a good start. Mark was not the I remembered, nor was he the over-animated version of himself that I met when I returned from L.A. It seemed we had settled into a relationship, and one I had always dreamed of having. Mark was a mentor of sorts, an unelected leader of a dark world I did not understand. I decided in that moment that my new journey would begin here, and Mark would be the moonlight I would follow for now.